Good morning. I have an honor and privilege to share my testimony this morning, and I don't think it'll be without tears. Uh, but I'm so grateful for what God has done in my life and is doing in all of our lives, because He is a God who is personally with us. So as I was preparing my testimony this morning, I was freshly reminded of how God is in the details. He's in the details on the times when He's generously giving. He's also in the details when there's obstacles at hand. He's in the details when we are in those moments of surrender. And to start off, I guess we'll start from the beginning. I was born and raised in Owasso, Michigan. It was a small hobby farm, and I loved it greatly. So growing up, I was surrounded by God's majestic creation. How can you not see that there is a creator when you're surrounded by beauty of His creation and nature? So I was captivated by every flower, every horse, every star in the sky, because I longed for something more in life. And at a very young age, I was convinced that there was something greater than myself, and that there was indeed an artist behind every breathtaking sunrise. At age 10, my life hit a tailspin of questions when my uncle committed suicide. I couldn't understand why he would think this world didn't need him when my world revolved around him. Sorry. So the ripple of effects of deep heart wounds affect me even to this day, as you can see. But as hard as that season was, I sensed God's comfort and peace. So growing up, my family and I, we attended Burton United Methodist Church pretty much every Sunday, a huge blessing. The Bible was preached. We would sing hymns as we sung some this morning. And it was a smaller, older congregation, but they were kind, and I was able to learn about this Jesus guy. My middle school and high school years were rough. The self-image that I had for myself was very poor, and I was not a good communicator by any means. I didn't have any close friends. I didn't have any confidence in who I was as a person. I struggled with learning. I didn't feel like I was ever good enough. And even though the culture was filtrating my thoughts and my ideas with this worldly idea of success, but deep down, I had this crazy notion that God still had a purpose for me. It was very personal. And at age 18, I dedicated my life to God, which is a great decision. But I didn't really understand what it meant to have this and make this covenant with Him. And I didn't know what it would entail. But I knew I wanted to be in alignment with His will for my life. So soon after that decision, I came to a crossroads where I had to choose between my worldly friend group or my Christian friend group. I couldn't ride the fence any longer because both were influencing my life in opposite directions. By the grace of God, He closed doors that were very toxic relationships and opened up doors to very life-giving relationships where I could grow and heal and find true identity in Christ. I was mentored by a handful of older women. I called them my Christian grandmas. And though through their gifts and abilities, I discovered my God-given gifts of hospitality, of gardening, event planning, building community, and so many other passions that I even have to this day. Oh, and did I mention that I was a hopeless romantic and a workaholic, all simultaneously in one? When I was 23 years old, God used a set of unfortunate circumstances to redirect my choices to realign myself back to His will. I was on bed rest from adrenaline fatigue for 3 months. I couldn't even carry a gallon of milk, which is very humbling for me because I thought I was invincible. However, during that season, I started reading a book called When God Writes Your Love Story. And something shifted in my heart as I was going through the wise words. And I was able to catch a glimpse of heaven when when God, as the creator of heaven and earth, comes and writes a love story. I saw it so beautifully. And he used that book in my life in a very powerful way. But he asked me, when I was done reading that book, Chelsey, do you love me completely and trust me as the author of your love story? To be completely honest, I was skeptical that God was even capable of writing a Hallmark love story. Be known to me, though, he was doing just that. But at the end of the day, I still wanted to be in alignment with his will for my life. So I surrendered that area of my heart. At age 26, I was completely convinced that I knew who God had in mind for me to marry, until he started dating my best friend. That does not work. So my heart was absolutely devastated, and I lamented and I cried out to God that Labor Day morning, asking God why it was taking so long for my calling as a wife to fall into place. And his reply was, "You're still holding on to areas of your heart that I want access to." And I looked up, I saw the beautiful sunrise and the silhouette of my horse, and I humbly repented and surrendered my will for his purpose, no matter the cost, because it does come with a cost. And that morning, I hit rock bottom, yet that was the same day God gave me my calling for the lost and the broken. I love Jesus, but I was a hermit. I loved living underneath of a rock and calling it good. But he was asking me for something more, to use the gifts and talents that he's blessed me with to serve others. So I received the second work of grace, and the vision for Ruth Haven Homestead, which was a respite for women, just birthed forth, and it bloomed and it prospered, and I was so excited to be used by God to be his hands and feet to women. And at age 29, while the entire world was shut down, you probably remember this well too, but I couldn't eat or drink anything without my stomach screaming in pain, and my rib cage felt like it might explode out of my side. So this happened during COVID, and it was a mandatory lesson on fasting and prayer for me and resting in his perfect peace. By the grace of God, I trusted him physically in a way that I never knew was possible. Yet my prayer life birthed out that season. I might not be able to enjoy a delicious bowl of ice cream anymore, but I now know how to fervently pray. And at age 31, God gave me a deep love for a Salvation Army officer. Age 31. Are you guys doing the... I waited. But God knew what he was doing. And let me tell you, our love story screams the best Hallmark movie ever. God has a sense of humor. I doubted, yet he was just like, let me show you. So however, I say that, and God gave me the beautiful gift of marriage that I wanted, or that I waited so long for. It included God exchanging my life of familiarity with a calling into the unknown, and that terrified me. Every time I cried out to him, his reply during that season was, "Trust me, nothing else. No details, just trust me." Months passed, and his reply was, "Trust me." I trusted him in my actions of walking into the unknowns, but my heart was longing for his beautiful gift of Ruth Haven, the women's ministry, with my horse, my dog Sammy, my family, my friends, my dream home. He was asking me to give them back to him. So my time in Gary, Indiana was rough. I got very, very depressed. I lost sight of my identity in Christ. I was mad at God for uprooting me from everything that was familiar. And once I started the Salvation Army Training College in Chicago, I felt like I was suffocating. Yet, as hard as this season was, God taught me the power of taking all of my heart wounds to Jesus, to find complete deliverance from strongholds that I didn't even know I had. A week before Christmas, I got a bad case of strep throat. Yes, you guessed it, another mandatory rest with the Father. This time I cried out to him for a fresh vision of hope. And sure enough, behind the scenes, he was working out the details, closing doors in the Salvation Army Church and opening up doors in the Nazarene Church. I never experienced a walking by faith, not by sight, or parting of the Red Sea moment until God called us here. It was miraculous, and to see it firsthand was amazing. So every season when my faith grew deeper, it usually started when God asked me, Chelsey, do you trust me in this area? I wish my heart had a natural default response, yes, Lord, I trust you, with joy and excitement. But as you saw the progression of my testimony, my pride was revealed. Yet I hope you see how God used my shortcomings to reveal his faithfulness. Because as Romans 8:28 states, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him and who are being called according to his purpose. And I also hope that you'll see how God is in the details, because he wants to redeem every area of our lives if we will let him. So thank you for letting me share this morning.